Reddit. Do you regret selling something just because you needed the money for it? What did you sell? My 71 pearl drums. I needed money for rent and I needed the room in my storage area. I've regretted it ever since I watched the guy drive off with them in his van. Oh, that hurt, Redding. I'm sorry for your loss. After my father passed, he left me a bunch of gold jewelry of his and his late girlfriend. I went to cash for gold because my student loan was going to default, and in another matter, the IRS was going to garnish my pay. I wish I had his rings to remember him by, but I had to sell them cause I was too afraid to end up in the same situation he was in as well before he died. You probably could have doubled your money by shopping them around a few jewelers. I'm not the one who spent it, but there is a dollar I'd like back very much. In the very early 70s, I was in a commercial for a bank somewhere in West Texas. Our first grade class sang the local bank's jingle and I remember seeing myself on television. One advantage to being short is that you are always in the front on these kinds of opportunities. They gave each of us kids a silver dollar hot glued to a plaque commemorating our TV stardom. My parents immediately popped it off and spent it. The plaque ended up in the trash. Because we moved every few months, the name of the city and bank were lost along the way. I'd like that dollar back. No offense, but your parents are mean. I had a 1981 Gibson SG Special in Sunburst. Sold it for $200. I worked at a music store years later and was talking to my Gibson rep about how you don't see many SGs in Sunburst. He said at the time that they only did the Sunburst in the SG Special in 1980-81. Limited run. Fewer than 1,000 made. When he saw my face he said, "You had one, didn't you? How much did you sell it for?" I told him and he chuckled a little. It was worth a couple thousand. Good God, this thread is making my heart ache. I sold all of my collectible dolls that I had owned since I was a kid. I had been unemployed for a few months and needed some money to tide me over till I found a new job, which I eventually did. I kind of regret it, since it was part of my childhood, but the money from it helped me get back on my feet again. So I try to see it more like my childhood obsession helped me later in life, and hopefully onto bigger and better things. I had a 1990 Jeep Wrangler. It was old, slow, and beat up, but it was my toy. I bought it with a pay bonus that I received the first time I got back from Iraq. I never put the top or doors on it, so I only drove it during warm weather. Unfortunately, a move after I changed jobs forced me to sell it because I moved before my family and we needed the money to maintain 2 households. Every time the sun is out and it's warm, I think of my Jeep. One time I sold literally everything I owned that didn't fit in an oversized duffel bag. Seriously, I had the owner of the local junk shop come to my apartment and told him to take anything and everything he wanted and make me an offer for the whole schmeal. I threw out what he didn't want and used the $600 he gave me to buy a one-way ticket to Japan to visit a girl I had just started dating and who had been transferred there to work for 4 years. I know, right? Still, though, we're married now. A coworker of mine fell on hard times because of a mountain of medical bills and ended up selling his grandfather's Air Force medals to another coworker. His grandfather was a colonel in the Air Force and flew a crap ton of combat missions in World War II, participated in the Berlin Airlift, commanded in Vietnam, and spent time as the personal pilot of Jackie Kennedy Onassis. The medals and his grandfather's Air Force dress uniform were his prized possessions. The guy he sold them to was an aspiring filmmaker who used them as props to shoot a Nazi zombie apocalypse movie. He pretended the uniform and medals were German and made them the costume for the main villain in the movie, who gets dispatched by a flamethrower at the end. Mother sucker burned this guy's grandfather's uniform and medals for a movie nobody will ever see, and my friend is still going bankrupt because of his medical bills. TLDR. Mounting medical bills force my friend to sell his prized possessions, his grandfather's Air Force medals and dress uniform. The guy he sells them to dresses a guy up like a Nazi zombie for a movie he's making and burns the medals and uniform to dust. Friend is still going bankrupt because of his medical bills. This is the type of story where you get together with some people and buy the things off of him, hold on to them for a while and then just give them back. No one should have to sell off crap like that, for any reason. My first car was a jet black 1987 Monte Carlo, the exact car Julian stole from Cyrus. If any of you are Trailer Park Boys fans, it was glorious. I ended up having to sell it years later to help pay for my wedding. Now I'm getting divorced, and I can't stop thinking about that dang car. My DSLR camera. It was a really nice one and I absolutely loved having it. I bought it while I was in college and even took a photography course. I was that excited. Then a couple of semesters later I had no way to finish paying my tuition and had to sell it. I got back almost what I paid for it, so that was nice, but I miss it. If I could to buy another, I would in a heartbeat. Same thing happened to me. I had bought a nice lens for the camera and ended up selling the body and lens separately to pay for college expenses. After college I bought another DSLR, but I can't afford a lens like the one I had. Unfortunately, since I bought the camera on Craigslist, the lens that came with it was broken. So now I just have a cheaper DSLR with a broken lens. I sold my 65 Fender Strat. I made some really dumb choices and was way stretched. I regret it, but frick, I needed the money. My uncle traded his 1969 Strat against a 1972 Opel back in 1980. My parents told me we had to move quickly, pretty sure because of foreclosure. I started going through some drawers in the garage and came across my N64 and Sega Genesis and Sega CD. We were in a hurry and I decided I wasn't going to ever play them again. I threw them away. GoldenEye, Bomberman 64, SMK 64, Racing Aces, Marky Mark and the Funk Bunch Make My Video, NBA Jam CD, Sonic CD, and many more. Ugh, I hate that memory. I actually sat back in my chair at the diner. Dang son. God dang. Oh gosh. My old Logitech Z680 system, Xbox 360, Fender MIM Jazz Bass, PVT NT115 with 210 cab, Pioneer Premier Subs and amp, Virago 535 motorcycle, my AK-47, my 300 Blackout. When my sister had her second child, we found out he had Down syndrome. She had to go to a specialty hospital in Dallas, 9 hours away. We live on the other side of the state and stay there for months while he had surgeries. I sold a bunch of stuff and put the money in her account so she could still get by. At least you did it for a great cause, and I'm sure your sister will always be grateful for it. You really can't put a price on that sort of thing. I wasn't selling, but I gave my PSP, along with all my games, away to a stranger on Reddit. I found him in our random acts of kindness and his story touched me. He was trying to find his little brother a handheld gaming device for his birthday, as they had spent his birthday money to fix a family car and couldn't afford it anymore. All I asked was for a thank you or even some pictures of the happy kid with my PSP, but I never got a word from the guy after I sent it out. I was just trying to help out and I miss my PSP. Bro, I hope he actually gave the game to his younger brother and didn't just use you for it. I sold a Gamma Cube, 2 controller, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Mario Kart Double Dash, Super Mario Sunshine, and a couple Mario sports games for $40 a few years back. Melee sells for $60 easily these days, and the whole thing is worth about more than $200. That wouldn't be so bad, since I wasn't broke or anything at the time. It's annoying because I got back into Melee, which meant I spent about $150 on getting a Gamma Cube, a few controllers and Melee, plus a few random games. Still don't have a copy of Double Dash, which is mildly upsetting, but I'll track one down eventually. I sold a MacBook Pro to a pawn shop for $200 when I needed rent money. My friend owed me $180 and was supposed to pay me back the same say I pawned it. I should have had the laptop back the next day, but my friend never paid me back and I was robbing Paul to pay Peter all month. I never got the laptop back. It was $2,600 brand new. I sold it for $200. I hate myself for it. I had a crystal clear Game Boy Color and Pokemon Yellow. First game device I had owned new in my life when I was growing up and I loved it. But a while after getting all Pokemon, my family ran into hard times and I offered up my Game Boy to a pawn shop to help pay the bills. It was tough watching a device you had owned and poured so much time and love into going on a shelf with a dozen other devices. I always wondered which kid got the game and if they kept my save game or just wipe it. Now I've got enough gadgets that I can play Tetris on my watch or stereoscopic VR demos on the train by using a Dye VR attachment for my phone, but I'll still miss that crystal clear case and the wonder it brought me. I sold the guitar my parents got me for my birthday when I was younger. My douchebag boyfriend at the time talked me into it. I get that sinking feeling when I think about it. I loaned an ex-girlfriend the very first bass I ever got. I never saw it again. I'm pretty sure she sold it for drugs. At least it wasn't my guitar, but I still feel for you. I had an early 20th century gramophone in mint condition. I sold it to pay for some bills when I was a poor college student. It was worth 4 times what I sold it for then, and now I'm sure it's worth far more. I was a dumb kid. An Acura Integra Type R. I bought it when I was in the Navy, and when I got out, I sold it, just because I felt like a dong owning that car with my smaller income. I figured when I got my crap sorted out, got my degree, and got a job, I would just buy another. They are not easy to find. I completely agree I didn't have a car, but it was my first car, did so much to it. Sold it for half of what I put into it. I want another but can't find one. I sold my 10% stake I had in Apple computers for $800 in the 70s, plus agreed to a $1,500 settlement to forfeit any claims against Apple. Had I kept it, today they would have been worth $60 billion. Instead I sold it for a total of $2,300. I feel like such a doo-doo head. Oh wait, no I don't. Cause this isn't me, it's actually Ronald Wayne's regret story. Had a sociology teacher in high school who owned stock in Domino's in the 80s. In 1999 I think it was worth $40 million, and he was dealing with us crapheads throwing textbooks out the window while he was using the chalkboard in a suburb of NYC. Poor guy. I was working an awesome job with lots of overtime and I got a really nice tax refund. So I finally went out and bought myself a shotgun. I spent a long time researching which one I wanted, accessories, etc. Got to take it to the range once before I was laid off 3 months later. A couple months after that, I had to sell it to make rent. I still have 2 ammo boxes full of 12 gauge shells but nothing to shoot them with. Still pisses me off. I didn't sell anything, but back in 1997 when I lived in the dorms, Air Force, they had a guy who needed money and was going around the dorms with all of his gaming systems in a large mesh bag. A N64, 20 plus games, Sega Saturn, 8 games, and a Sony PlayStation, 10 plus games. He asked if I was interested, and even though I wasn't much of a gamer, I threw out an offer of $100 for all 3, basically for him just to go away. He told me he couldn't do that, so that was that. 30 minutes later, he knocks on my door and says we have a deal. I had a Mickey Mouse telephone that had been in my family for years. It was Mickey wearing a backpack and the backpack was the phone. It still worked. I was so poor I did a car boot sale, yard sale, and sold him for £5. The guy haggled me and he opened his wallet with £100 in, and I instantly regretted selling it. My aunt said I can still buy them in Argos, but meh. My mom traded all of my dad's guns for a vehicle after he died. I don't have much left from him. Those guns would have been great to have around, but they're long gone. Oh god, this brought tears to my eyes. So I was originally working for a place called Teleperformance and making quite a bit of cash over there, and decided since I was ahead on bills to treat myself to a custom made Jackson guitar. This baby was smooth, best sounding electric I've ever played. For the guitar nerds, this had dual humbucker pickups, a midline pickup between them, custom fitted neck etc. And I paid a little over 1.5k after all was said and done. Flash forward a year, my life becomes a mess. Girlfriend leaves me, lose my job and lose my place. I'm at the point where I would just go to the temp workplaces just to make enough for a 6-pack and some smokes. One day a buddy of mine comes in town and wants to go out, so me trying to be a decent friend I pawned my custom made Jackson guitar for $80. This was a huge mistake. I went back a few weeks later paying the minimum pawn while I was drinking myself to death, and after so much binge drinking I lost track of everything. I even tried coming back a few times begging them to work with me, but I was as deadbeat as they come at that point in my life. Got back on my feet though. Now I have a beautiful family, 2 kids and a wife. Still drink occasionally but not that much. The guitar is still gone though, and it puts a bitter taste in my mouth when I remember how much I lost. TLDR. Pawned a $1.5k guitar for a night at a bar. $80. Drank excessively and forgot about it. In 1996, I sold all my savings bonds and bought 25 shares of Apple Inc. stock. I held onto that stock as it rose through the years. Split twice and I had 100 shares in the mid 2000s. I was trying to reduce debt and had started selling a few of my stocks. I changed my mind on my Apple stock and called my broker one morning to remove the stop order. I left a message. He called back at 4:30 p.m. after market close and told me he had sold my stock. It started and ended below my stop order, but went just higher than it during the day and it sold. So, I could have turned around and bought it right back and only been out the transaction fee, but I was trying to reduce debt and the $9,600 was helpful for that purpose. 2 months later the iPhone released. Yeah, it haunts me to this day. It split 7-1 in 2014 and now my stock would have been worth close to $80k. TLDR. Had 100 shares of Apple Inc. Sold it 2 months before the first iPhone released. My PS4. I sold it because I was the only one of my friends to have one at the time. Fast forward a year, I'm in a group chat with 6 or 7 other blokes who constantly organize to play online together. Me equals sad. Da frick. I've had my PS4 for a year and a half and I don't even have a single friend on my friend list. When I was younger, I had a DS Lite that I loved the crap out of. However, when I was around 13 I thought that I had grown out of Pokemon, Mario Kart, and Animal Crossing. I spent the money on school supplies. Last month, I bought the new 3DS and have Pokemoners and ACNL. Go, I know the feels of this one, only I lost my GBA and all my original Pokemons in a move. I decided I wanted back and so I bought a GBA SP in silver for me and yellow for the wife. Then we got my daughter a 3DS, so I bought X with the idea of playing when she was asleep. Didn't work out so well, so now I have my own black 3DS and as well as X. My Magic: The Gathering collection. I used to play every FNM, and my friends and I would carpool to any large event within 4 hours. Then I wanted to move out and get an apartment with my girlfriend. My folks paid for my portion of everything but not hers. So, I sold my collection for like $2k, paid all of our deposits, first month's rent, a bed, and some other necessities. This was just the stuff I never really used anymore, like my full set of Zendi fetches and Legacy Ant, replacing Abu Jewels with shocks. Over the next year, I sold everything else when money got tight. Standard and modern decks, then my EDHs, then bulked out my commons uncommons, then everything else. It's a sad moment when something that was a big part of your life, and who you are as a person, disappears. Well, opiates are a heck of a drug. Over a period of about a year, I slowly liquidated my 10-year-old coin collection. I only kept the coins my grandparents had given me. I sold off about $600 in coins. Some were pretty awesome, like the 1910 $10 gold piece I had treasured as a little kid. The collection had already gained a ton of value in the short time I had it. I could have saved it and passed it on to my kids someday, but I wanted drugs badly. Been clean from opiates 5+ years now and thinking of starting a new coin collection someday. I sold some of my original Xbox games so I could get 360 games. I only play on PC now, and the games I get an itch to play that are on console are pretty much only the older ones. I had a Nintendo 64 with 4 controllers, and all the best games: Mario Party, Mario Kart, Conker's Bad Fur Day. CBFD can cost as much as $200 today BTW. I had all the accessories and after a while, I got bored of it, so my mother decided pretty sure she sold it for like 20 bucks. But I am starting my collection again. I've got the N64, 2 controllers, 007 GoldenEye, Mario Golf, U, and OCW Revenge. Still looking for CBFD at flea markets and yard sales. I had a Nintendo 64 and when the PS2 came out I swear I put it away in storage for the future. I had the urge to play Mario 64 and could not find my 64 anywhere. I looked for days and my mom says I sold it. Nah, I could not have. I stopped looking, but I still have my Mario 64 and Mario Kart. My 2003 Honda CB400 Super 4. I had just finished fixing it up after a crash and my girlfriend at the time was like either me or the bike. Unfortunately it took me another year to figure out she was not worth it and put distance between us. I am now married to someone else who is awesome, who tells me to buy a new bike if that's what I want, but I haven't yet. My grandfather had a genuine samurai sword from a Japanese camp that was surrendered to his squad in World War II. Not sure on specifics. He had to sell some of his war memorabilia, I assume to pay for Bill's life etc. And the sword was one of the things he decided had to be sold. To this day he won't even talk about it or tell anyone how much he sold it for because he knows it was probably a mere fraction of what it could potentially be worth today. About 8 years ago my sister, my BF at the time, and I sold a portable DVD player to get some money for Chinese food. It was my mom's. She won it at some sort of event at her college. She attended college in her 40s. I still feel really bad. To be fair, my parents were hoarders and it had been at the bottom of a room full of stuff, so I'm not sure that she knows. Just think. Since the advent of smartphones, portable DVD players have become worth far less than Chinese food, so really that's the best possible outcome for the portable DVD player. My body. I realize now there were other options. I am completely done with that life, and although it made me a stronger person I would never support someone doing it. Life as a head in a jar must be tough. Short on rent, so sold my gaming PC with Samsung 22 inches monitor, Logitech gaming keyboard and mouse for £250. Biggest regret ever. My body. I was a surrogate for a couple that wanted more children. The whole process wasn't bad, but it's a lot to put your body through, especially with the hormones they have you on in the beginning. I wish that I didn't have to do it, but it paid really well and allowed me to be home with my daughter. I'm sorry if anyone has already seen me post this, but I have to put this in this thread. I regret my dad selling a car when my parents couldn't work out their differences in a divorce. In the 60s, my father bought a convertible Ferrari Spider from a guy in Illinois for $5,000. I used to play on this car as a child, often scratching the paint with pennies. Yes, this was a big deal, but the car was in disrepair and sat in our garage unused for years. When my parents divorced, my father sold the car for $8,000 in the early 80s. He used to tell me the story of that car, and how the guy that bought it spent $80,000 to fix it up, then sold it for $800,000. Well, my dad's been dead for almost 20 years, but a friend of his still bothered to find my brother a few years ago and ask about the car. It turns out that they are selling for $24 million now. I regret that my father sold that car. Sold my laptop last year to buy a bunch of Percocet and H. Dang, I was stupid, but come November 15th I will be 1 year clean from all opiates, so that's pretty nice. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.